I really want to just give you some massive kudos because I didn't know the, that place that you were at in your life before. I didn't know you then, but having seen who you are now, that's just like your normal day-to-day life. That's full of wellness and empowerment and
Yeah.
love. And, I can see you, it's so obvious to see how much you love your little one. Is it
Mm.
Clara?
Clara, she's
Clara.
an
And your
angel.
family, and you legitimately are just the embodiment of what it is that you teach, and it's just incredible. And you mentioned, like, I was so lucky that day to have my husband's support, and I was so lucky to have this psychologist. But up until that point, you hadn't done anything wrong. Like,
Mm.
you just happened to go full on based on what your environment told you was right. It wasn't
Mhm.
like there was any bad intent. It was the opposite. You're like, I'm trying to get the most out of my life. And I
Mhm.
can relate to this a lot as well, because I tried so hard to get myself to the point where I burnt myself out. It wasn't
Yeah.
like it was
Yeah.
easy to get there. It was like, it was really hard to do the thing that was hard, that was bad for me from a health perspective. I
Yeah.
worked so hard to burn myself out. I was so courageous to get myself to that point of success.
Yeah.
Um, and I can just, I really can feel empathy for that. And then off the back end, like being that kind of high achiever, then kind of blaming myself for getting to that point. And it's like, none of it was your fault. And
Mhm.
then you were able to have the open-mindedness, like the universe gifted you some karma, which you'd earned,
Mm.
with that psychologist, and karma that you earned with your partner that day, because you deserved to have
Yeah.
that turning point.
Thank you, Ryan. What a blessing that was. And I just
Yeah,
think my psychiatrist was so, and this is a really beautiful question that answers something that you brought up at the start of the conversation, was around, how we define success. And my psychiatrist in the hospital said to me, instead of thinking about what you want to have, let's start journaling down how you want to feel. And let's define
yes,
success that way. She's like, tell me, how do you want to feel moving forward? And I said to her, I want to feel calm. I want to feel
yeah,
at peace. I want to feel happiness.
yeah,
She said, one of the things was, I think you should move out of Sydney. That was one of her guidances, because a lot of her anxiety patients actually leave the city because the cities are just so, everything's just, in a rush and hard. And it
yeah,
really does wind us up as anxious people.
yes,
And she said, have you ever thought about moving down south? And I thought, that's exactly where I wanted to be living for the last sort of decade, because my in-laws are down in Gerringong Way, and I thought,
mm,
that's it. I need a pace of life that's not so stimulated all the time.
yeah. And that was the obvious choice for your new definition of success, but it was the non-obvious choice for your old definition of
Correct.
success.
Correct.
Yeah,
It was so brilliant, because now financially, I'm more financially well off than I ever have been before. But it's more financially well off in terms of my bucket is so full, and that financial wealth honestly just gets distributed straight back out there to our charities that we support for mental health. And then it kind of just flows back in, we just flow it back out. And it's
yeah,
not, I'm no longer attached to the house or a car or shoes or that ridiculous stuff that we get hardwired to.
yeah.
It's just outrageous.
It's so outrageous from the other side, but in
I
the
know.
moment, it's just like the emotional pull that is ingrained within, that has become ingrained within us,
Mm.
attempting to do life right and win and do the best we can, which we're taught. Because I can relate to you massively from having, like, being an athlete growing up,
Mm.
being really, and I also, have you heard of the Enneagram
No.
personality types? There's so many of them, but the gist is you've got a conditional, like, we're taught to conditionally be worthy of love based
Mm.
on a certain set of parameters that we meet. If we get stroked positively or negatively based on what our parents says to us, great job for expressing yourself. Then you go, cool. If I express myself, I'm worthy of love. Or, keep quiet. We've got guests around. Okay, if I express myself, I'm not worthy of love, so I got to be quiet. Or, well done, you did well on your test, or you won today, amazing job, or you came third, that's not good. And then we go, what do I need to do to be worthy of love? Because we're dependent as kids, so that we can actually have our parents protect us.
Mm.
Because if we believe, which is logical, if we're in the wild, that if we don't appease our parents, then they don't love us and they won't protect us. And so we're actually in fight or flight if we're not meeting the conditions that we were taught to meet to be worthy of love. And we can both, we're very similar from our scripts being centered around achievement and success and doing really well with things and being the best at things. And that's what we need to do to be worthy of love. And so much of society is geared that way. And so many of the people that I attract and you would attract would be geared that way as high performers. And so it's really interesting that you were able to move your goalposts to being the quality of the emotions you experience moment to moment, which is your whole life is the moment. So if you're feeling like it doesn't make any sense, I don't understand how I missed this, but it's like, okay, so if you have one day where you feel great in the future when you're going to hit some goal that's 3 years away, but then you spend 1,000 days not feeling good on the lead up to that one day, it's just so stupid. If the goal of life is fulfillment.
It's an illusion. And it's okay to have a nice car and nice house, but just really understanding that's not where our happiness indicators lie. You know, it actually, there's 3 pillars for the happiness indicators. The most important one is your health, your physical and your mental health. Yes. If those 2 things are not in check, you cannot pour from an empty cup. You are no good for yourself and for anyone else around you. So that has to be like highest priority. And then number 2 is your relationships, your connection.
You feel like crap with the health thing as well. You can experience, like, people normalize the healthy habits that they have and the experience that they have. And whenever you relapse, it's great research to realize how much of a detriment it is when we're choosing the unhealthy habits. Like,
absolutely,
if you get 8 hours sleep every night or 8.5 or whatever you need, and then one night you have 3 hours sleep and you're like, oh, that's what my sleep does for me because I felt like crap on that day. Or your diet's really, really solid. And then one particular day you just like have a bunch of like really unhealthy food and a bunch of sugar and you feel that disgusting sluggish feel. In contrast, you're like, oh, that's what the health is doing for me.
Absolutely. And the day you have today is what you set up yesterday. So what you filled your body with, how you slept, that actually sets up our day today. And it's, I just think people miss that. They miss that whole, but I just can't schedule it in. And I say to them, okay, if you can't schedule in to take care of yourself, your mental and physical health, I want you to think about one person, and the listeners could do this right now. Think about one person you love the most in this world. Who is that one person? And just journal their name down. And I want you to start doing it for them. And what I mean by that is that my daughter Clara, who's 5.5, and my husband Jay, they are the most important things in my life. My daughter Clara does not deserve a stressed out, anxious, burnt out mummy at the end of the day. She just does not deserve that. So every day I schedule in movement, or I meditate, or I go and do something flow like surfing. So she gets the best version of me every day.
Yeah, that's so practical. It's so practical, but what I'm curious in is like, why do we always have to deflect it to someone else? Why can't it just be for our own fulfillment?
Correct. And this is the thing, if people can't intrinsically motivate themselves, if they cannot get them across the line, right, for themselves, for feeling great and thriving and productivity and longevity and just having no inflammation in the body and all these great things that happen from taking care of yourself, then they have to lean on somebody that they love.
Yeah.
Because, then that usually gets them across the line from a psychological level. And the other third pillar, Ryan, that everyone kind of forgets about, and I know that you're into this as well. So it's like your health, it's relationships with your people. So just if you're introverted, you just need 2 people that you love and they love you. And for extroverts listening, they need 5. Okay, that's kind of how it works. And then
I love that. So practical again. This is what I love about the way that you speak. It's so like tangible.
Yeah. And then the third thing, which is the unsung hero, which we see it all the time in the research, is charity work. Is when you actually get yourself out of your own head and you start doing things for other people that can never repay you. Your happiness bucket honestly flows over. This sense of fulfillment is just next level.